Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Seattle doubles down on failed homeless policies and loses its mind over the Blue Angels. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
I had an interesting conversation earlier today with Bennett, the protester who calls our show. And we're going to be doing an interview with Bennett over a great cause that he's involved with later today at around 5:20. But we had it recorded earlier, and when I was talking to him, he said something very, very wise. And Bennett and I don't agree on anything politically. We don't. But we have this mutual détente we kind of have, which is why I'm more than happy to talk to him about some issues, and we have some overlap. We're going to be talking about some issues he also has with the Seattle City Attorney, Ann Davidson. But he said something that really resonated with me, and I've been thinking about it since we did that interview with him. Progressives will never vote for anybody other than a progressive when there is a progressive in the race. When there's an actual progressive in the race, they will never vote for anybody else. Let's take me for a minute. If there's a moderate in the race who I can get on board with 50, 60%, and I know the Republican doesn't have a chance at all, I'm not just going to vote Republican. I'm going to vote for the person I think can stop the progressive. I'm willing to do that. I'll vote for a moderate Republican. I'll vote for a moderate Democrat. But even I've got my lines on that kind of stuff. And today, Ann Davidson showed me that she's more concerned about getting the progressive vote than doing the right thing. And this is the third or fourth time she's sued the Trump administration on behalf of Seattle. And it's not for stuff that you go, okay, I don't really care about this stuff. This is for the big stuff. And what she doesn't realize, and what Bruce Harrell doesn't realize, is that you're running against actual progressives. You're not going to make the left happy. You cannot make the progressives happy, and you're never progressive enough for the progressives. They're very regressive like that, not progressive. Zoran Mamdani wants to go back to defunding the police, and now he's the golden boy. We tried that. It failed. It was a disaster. So you are regressing to a time where we tried that failed experiment. The Zoran Mamdanis of the world are the ones running the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party is now the AOCs, Zoran Mamdanis, Bernie Sanders. Hey, guys, I hate to tell you this. Bernie Sanders won the 2016 election for the Democrats. He did. By the Democrats striking him down, he became more powerful than they could possibly imagine. Because now you've got a whole bunch of disgruntled progressives, as they call themselves, far-left liberals, who say, well, let's find the most progressive person we can. For them, Kamala Harris isn't progressive enough. They want the Zoran Mamdanis until they find something even more radical than him. The opponent of Bruce Harrell, the opponent of Ann Davidson, you're not going to get any people from their side to vote for you because you're pretending to be a progressive. It's not going to work. All you're doing is losing people like me. What did they do today? They sued the Trump administration over funding cuts that they're going to be facing because of DEI. DEI is racist. DEI is exclusionary. We have seen the results of DEI policies in the workplace and the classroom, and there has been nothing but disaster because of it. So what you're saying is you want to violate civil rights laws, which Democrats put in place, by the way, and supported. You want to violate civil rights laws because you say, well, you know what? We just like doing this, so you better give us your federal funding. DEI is discriminatory. It's not diverse. It's not equitable. It's not inclusive. It is the complete opposite of all that. Why are you guys doing this? You're doing this because you need a boogeyman. And you're saying Trump is the boogeyman. Ann Davidson did a statement today. At City Hall when they're announcing the lawsuit against the Trump administration. Here's what she said.
Thank you for coming today and spending some time with us on this important topic. It's important for people to understand what we're doing today. We are here to make sure that the priorities and local control for the city of Seattle and what we put as our priorities remain something that is available for our people to choose from.
Stop right there. And it breaks my heart I'm doing this because I like Ann personally. I've known Ann for a long time, but this is just dumb. If Seattle wants to spend the money on DEI stupidity, you can spend your own money on DEI stupidity. You cannot use federal dollars to do it. Truth is, you probably can't use our local dollars to do it either because it is discriminatory. Name me one school where after doing DEI, the grades went up, the mental health went up, the race relations went up. Name me one school in the entire U.S. You can't do it. Right there, this is flawed logic. And what will happen is some local Seattle judge, some federal Seattle judge will go, yeah, I agree with them. It's going to go to the Supreme Court, and they're going to lose. The reason they're doing this case is because they're a couple days out of the primaries, and Bruce Harrell is tied with Katie Wilson.
In the first 100 days, the Trump administration issued 143 executive orders. And we're here today because thankfully our legal system was created such that one person, even if that person is president and even if that person is Trump, does not enact federal law and decide its interpretation. We're here today because—
Oh, we're doing the no kings thing. Is that what we're saying? The no kings thing? That's what you're trying to say? Hey, I got a question. Jay Inslee still had emergency powers when you guys went into office. So, little question there. Where did you sue him to get rid of the emergency powers? No, really, I'm asking very, very seriously. That was actual tyranny.
Because federal overreach, attempts to coerce by threatening congressionally appropriated funds, and unilaterally claiming what is federal law does not make—
Whoa, 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 whoa. No, my friend. No, 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 no. You do not get to say that in this case. You are not allowed to allocate money for something that is illegal. Also, we rolled back a whole bunch of that spending in the big, beautiful bill. But we can play this little game if that's the way you want to do it. This whole press conference is a PR stunt to appeal to the progressives. And it ain't going to work because you ain't going to get their vote.
Make it so. I have filed 2 other lawsuits against the Trump administration for similar actions. We've had some funds released in our most recent lawsuit securing the cities for counterterrorism funds. And we also have a court order to prevent unlawful application of immigration provisions based on another presidential executive order.
Can we translate that to English for a second? You sued because you want to keep Seattle a sanctuary city, which means illegal aliens, which means illegal alien criminals. Aren't you the one who said you wanted the streets to be safer, and yet you're suing over the illegal alien criminals? You're suing over the drug dealers. You're suing over the human traffickers. This is the direction we're going in? Really?
In today's lawsuit, we are seeking to make a declaratory injunctive relief, claiming that the executive orders focusing on diversity and gender ideology are unconstitutional and unlawful. They're based upon—
Hang on, that's where we agree. So wait a second. DEI is unconstitutional. It is Oh, you're coming from the other direction. You're saying the executive order about it. That's what you're claiming, right?
And separation of powers, spending clause, the Fifth Amendment, the 10th Amendment, and the Administrative Procedures Act. At risk for the city of Seattle is about $370 million.
I got an idea. Stop discriminating against people. Sorry, just stop discriminating against people. Can you tell me how you have improved the city at all? Oh, wait, I know. You guys wrote on the ground in front of Seattle City Hall, Black Lives Matter. You guys spent $40,000 painting that on the ground. You guys spent tens of thousands of other dollars writing Black Lives Matter on a street outside of Cal Anderson Park. Congratulations, you solved racism. You did it. You guys had an entire autonomous zone to show us how non-racist you were, and in the process, 6 black teens were shot and 2 were killed. Oh, you guys are doing a bang-up job.
And spending authority that has been appropriated by Congress to the city of Seattle. We should not have to forego the use of that money that has been appropriated by Congress, the one that has the authority to control the purse, not the president.
Now, there is a point to be made here. President Trump's executive actions only go so far. If Congress was serious about getting rid of DEI and enforcing the Trump agenda, why aren't we having votes about this? Mike, we had the big, beautiful bill, 3-4 weeks ago now? It was right around July 4th. Yeah, we're at the end of the month. We're almost at August. So about 4 weeks ago now. Is Congress working on anything else right now? Yeah, they have some hearings where they have some fireworks and stuff, and it's fun to watch. But why didn't they make any of this stuff permanent? You have the votes. Do it. Some of it was done in the one big, beautiful bill. There's a lot more that needs to be done.
We should not have to forego our own local policies in order to obtain that money that has already been provided to us.
Your local policies are racist. The local policies are racist, and Ann, I know you know that. I know you know that. We're pushing forward with discriminating against people. Here's one that's going to cook your noodle. Let's do this one again. Sorry to always make it about me, but let's do this one. Jews are 1/10 of 1% of the world's population, 2% of the American population. There's only 70,000 Jews in the entire Washington, Seattle, Western Washington area. Would you like to tell me where we fit in the DEI scale? Where do Asians fit? Where does anybody fit who's not on your certain intersectional scale there? I don't see it working. You want to know how desperate these guys are for endorsements? I saw this one. This is how desperate they are. Ready for this? The Seattle Arts Voters Guide. Seattle Arts. Just making sure we got this one here, okay? They are endorsing Bruce Harrell for mayor. Oh, art. Do you mean the graffiti on I-5 that you drive past? Oh, that's not what you mean by art. He wrote, "My arts platform, as my proven arts record as mayor, is a holistic approach to supporting a diverse array of artists and arts organizations, both new and legacy, in their mission to expand access to the arts across Seattle." How many times has he said arts in one sentence? That's one sentence. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times said the same word in one sentence. Aren't you supposed to be a lawyer? Aren't you supposed to know how to write? Through collaboration, programming, funding, and creative opportunities, we're helping to maintain and grow Seattle's reputation as an incredible city for the arts. Dude, you can't walk and chew gum at the same time. You've got a massive homeless problem. You've got a massive crime problem. You've got a massive drug problem. And we're talking about the arts. Bruce, you cannot walk and chew gum at the same time. Would you like me to prove it? Shall we go through some of the statistics of your failure? Because the numbers are on my side. Ready? Bruce Harrell has been an elected official in Seattle for approximately 15 and a half years. Homelessness, violent crime, and overdose deaths all increased significantly through much of his time in office. Homelessness, the HUD-based point-in-time count, which is an undercount, by the way, grew from about 8,439 in 2008 to 13,368 in 2022, then surged to 16,868 in 2024, all outpacing county population growth. Crime. Violent crime rate in Seattle rose from 244 per 100,000 residents in 2008 to 453 in 2022, peaking at 777 in 2023. Serious felony crimes, homicide, rape, aggravated assault rose sharply during the 2010s and early 2020s. Homicides increased 84%, rapes 139%, aggravated assault 77% between 2008 and 2019. Overdoses. Dramatic escalation from 2008 to the early 2020s. Overdose deaths in King County rose sharply, driven by fentanyl. 2022 saw 1,000 overdose deaths, over half linked to fentanyl, nearly double the 2020 figure of 506. 2023 reached over 1,024 deaths in under 10 months, largely fentanyl related. Don't take my word for it. I pulled these numbers off his own website. This is from the Seattle's own website. That's where I got these numbers from. You guys want to take on the Trump administration over DEI? Is that going to solve the crime? Is that going to solve the overdoses? Is that going to solve the homelessness? You guys have had this DEI nonsense for years now, and has only made things worse. This is the hill you want to die on. and you think it's going to get you the progressive votes, and it never, ever will. At 5:20 today, you're going to hear from Bennett the protester, my new frenemy, and he's going to tell you that himself. He's going to say that. You can try appealing to these progressives as much as you want. It's not going to get you their votes. You want federal money? Obey federal law. Instead, what you are trying to do is you're suing so that you can discriminate against people, so that you can be exclusive of people. You can exclude people from what you're doing. You guys just don't get it, do you? Things have only gotten worse around here. Is Ann Davison prosecuting more crimes? Yes. Is that good? Yes. Do we like that? Yes. But why are you taking on these other lawsuits? What? Harold's making you do it? No, it doesn't work that way. You are independently elected from him. If he wants to be a far-left crazy progressive, he can do that on his own. You don't have to do that for him. You are independently elected, and you're elected by people like me. We are your constituents too. This is a huge stab in the back, which goes along with all this insane illegal immigration support and the other lawsuits Seattle is party to and filing. Not a single one of them will make anybody's lives here in Seattle better. It'll make progressives feel more virtuous about themselves, which is why you're doing it, because it's an election year. We have major problems in the city. DEI, not going to fix any of them. Keeping illegal alien criminals here, not going to fix any of them. And maybe instead of spending your resources challenging the Trump administration and spending more resources going after the actual problems here in Seattle, like overspending, what you're really worried about is this is going to blow out your budget because you guys overspent so much on stupidity that now you don't have the money to pay the actual bills, and you're facing hundreds of millions of dollars in budget deficit. Why? Because idiots like Bruce Harrell supported the tax, which is taxing all these businesses, and the businesses left. And you were counting on all that tax money to pay your bills. And it didn't. You're never, ever, ever, ever going to make these progressives happy. You're just not going to. And in the process of trying to make these progressives happy, you're losing people like me. And I don't mean people on the right. I mean people who were thrown to the right. People who used to consider themselves moderates. People who used to consider themselves more conservative Democrats that have now been chucked away by the left, chucked away by the Democrat Party so that they can embrace these full-on crazy left-wing progressives. How's this going to end? We've tried all these experiments before. They've all failed. You're suing to protect failure. That's all it is. You're suing to protect failure. When we come back, my friends, speaking of failure, the left is failing at their advertising, trying to demonize candidates locally. It's cracking up a lot of us. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I told you last week how I went to meet with the Seattle Times on Zoom. Apparently, I've become the voice of the anti-democracy voucher program, even though I'm not officially running any campaign. Let me say that again for anybody who thinks I'm using the airwaves to run a campaign. I'm not. Somebody from the elections office asked me to write the statement for it. I wrote the statement for it because they know I hate the democracy vouchers. There is no campaign, even though this is a huge missed opportunity for the GOP to run a campaign against the democracy vouchers. But like usual, the GOP's MIA in our area. So I guess it's up to me. So I meet with the Seattle Times, and it was a fairly good meeting because I'm meeting with their editorial board. They're asking all these questions. And my favorite moment of all, and if you don't live in Seattle, you don't know what the democracy vouchers are. Basically, they tax you so that you can get some gift certificates in the mail and spend them on political campaigns. Forget the First Amendment implications. Forget the legal implications. But affordability, we have one of the most unaffordable cities in the U.S., and you're taxing us to fund political candidates? Also, almost nobody's using these democracy vouchers. The height, it was over 7% of Seattleites were using them. Now it's dropped down to 4%. And they keep saying, what a success it is. Well, I guess if we're talking about government programs, yeah, it is a success. It's not a colossal total failure. 4% of people living in Seattle actually use these things. So I meet with the Seattle Times, and I'm wondering, where's the endorsement, for or against? Where is it? I usually get emails from the Seattle Times, even though I don't subscribe to them anymore. You never get off the email list. They just keep sending and sending and sending. And I'm thinking to myself, I haven't seen this thing. Turns out they actually published an article about this on the 25th. But I haven't seen the article. And nobody else has either. You know why? I checked my emails, Mike. I did a search for democracy vouchers. Nothing. Then I did a search on their social media for all their social media posts. Nothing. Remember a couple days ago I said, you know what they're going to do? They're going to say no to this thing because they know it's stupid and you can't support this dumb thing. But they're going to do it in such a way where the left can't get mad at them. They're going to bury it or they're going to hide it. They're going to wait till the last minute to talk about it. That's exactly what they did. My favorite moment from the democracy voucher meeting was when somebody from the Seattle Times says, well, in all of your research, where is all this wasted money gone that's not being used for the democracy vouchers? And I said, wouldn't that be a great thing for the Seattle Times to investigate? Aren't you the Seattle Times? Aren't you guys supposed to be the watchdogs? Investigate that. They told me they were going to be putting up a meeting of this like they did with the Bob Ferguson endorsement meetings. They're claiming it's a miscommunication, but now that video will never see the light of day. If I had known that video wasn't going to be posted, I would have recorded it myself on Zoom. But now you're never going to see it. The Seattle Times is trying to bury how they are saying vote no on Proposition 1 for the democracy vouchers. And I agree with them. By the way, they'd get a lot of Republican support on this one. But once again, they're too afraid of the progressives. And the progressives are running the most entertaining ads in other parts of our county. Mike is not usually politically active. Yes, he works on this show. But I have never seen Mike in any election cycle we've been through come in with flyers, come in with certain candidates or anything else. But now these flyers coming out are so ridiculous, you guys have Mike engaged. Mike, what's the stuff showing up at your house?
Oh, my goodness. Well, so I'm in the I'm in the zone for the state representative race for the 33rd legislative district. I'm also in the 5th, for CTAC.
Yeah.
So, talk about city council races as well as King County council races. But the propaganda that seems to come to my house more than anything is specifically in the race for state representative in the 33rd. There are 3 people running for this race, 2 Democrats and 1 Republican. I can't tell you the Republican's name because they can't be bothered to door knock or send flyers out. I literally don't know the guy's name. But there are 2 Democrats. One is friend of the show, Burien Mayor Kevin Schilling, and some other knucklehead named Edwin Aubres. And I get a lot of, I get a couple pro Kevin Schilling ones, which are fine. I'm not going to read any of those today because
It's the stuff we like.
It's the stuff we already like. So I like the anti ones. But I got this Edwin Orbris one. Edwin Orbris is endorsed by these leaders and organizations. It's got like Planned Parenthood and SEIU. And I see a little picture. It's like, oh, Chris Rakedahl. Oh, I hate that guy. But I remember I got one of these like a week or so ago, and it had some other folks I don't like. I'm like, oh man, is nobody's favorite congressperson from Hamas no longer supporting? No, I flip it over,
and she's right there. There's Jayapal backing Schilling's opponent right there.
Exactly. So that goes right in the shredder for me. So I had to get rid of that. I just wanted to share that just for funsies. But the one I really wanted to share today, this one cracks me up. Because, again, all these anti-Kevin Schilling ads remind me of some of the ones that happened during the governor's race that our good friend Turd Ferguson was putting out against Dave Reichert. It's like, oh, go to ReichertFiles.com or something. And I would go there, and it was all like pro-Dave Reichert stuff. I was like, yes, don't threaten me with a good time. So now that's what's happening with Kevin Schilling. I have one that says in big letters, MAGA loves Kevin Schilling.
And?
Which I'm like, all right, cool. Well,
okay.
I mean, I already voted for the guy, but all right. But let me read from this. Quote unquote, Democrat lobbyist Kevin Schilling's campaign for the state legislature is funded by one of the biggest Republican Trump donors in our state. Wait for it. Pause for effect. Steve Gordon gave $50,000 to Trump's inauguration and said in an interview that he gives Trump a quote-unquote an unabashed A for everything other than the tariffs. Okay, but I think that's a quote from Steve Gordon, not from Kevin Schilling.
That's from Steve Gordon.
Steve Gordon.
And how much did Steve Gordon actually give to Kevin Schilling? Because it just said he gave $50,000 to Trump.
Yeah, it doesn't say.
Right, so that means he wrote Kevin Schilling like a check for $100.
Yeah.
Oh, he's supporting him. He's funding his entire campaign.
We continue. Yeah. Schilling, a shill for GOP values. And I'm like, cool, we've had him on the show a number of times.
Wait, hang on. So what you're saying is GOP values are common sense.
Yes.
Because, look, there's plenty of things we disagree with Kevin Schilling on, but we agree on the big stuff.
Yes.
Property taxes, we agree on public safety, we agree on all this. Camping bans.
Uh-huh.
Oh, those are GOP values now. Okay, hey, all you Democrats
yes.
listening right now, guess what? Welcome to the Republican Party. Yeah. Come on in, the water's warm.
So this continues. I think this is a continuation of the Steve Gordon narrative. Schilling, a shill for GOP values. Why is he pushing for Kevin Schilling? Maybe it's because Kevin Schilling waited in a long line to attend a Trump rally, calling it, quote, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, end quote. Or maybe it's because he stood up for landlords over renters in opposing a legislation to resume the size of rent increases. I'm like, yeah, don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, these are all good things. Also, here's something else. I remember when Barack Obama was speaking here, I thought about going.
Obama!
Before he was president, I thought about going because I go, yeah, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity
truly.
To see this guy.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? Hey, if Joe Biden came to town and I got invited to one of his events, I would go just to see who's running that puppet. That's
absolutely,
right.
Yeah, just to see the strings and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
If you could see like where the hand goes and whatnot,
yes.
We round this out. Under Mayor Kevin Schilling, Burien even sued to stop a minimum wage increase.
And?
I'm like, great. Again, don't threaten me with the good time.
You're keeping my costs lower at restaurants? Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Sounds like MAGA found their man. And I'm like, all right, cool. Is that who we want representing us in Olympia? And to me, I'm all like,
yes.
Yeah.
Mike, do me a favor.
Yes. So noted.
Mike, do
you
me a
plead
favor.
Guilty? Double yes.
Reach out. Let's have him on we haven't had him on the show since he's been running for office. I didn't want to magify him.
Yeah.
But now that he's been magified by the left, I think for sure we should have him over on the show.
There was one I got a couple days ago that I took a picture of and posted it on my X account. And if you want to follow me on X, I'm at Mike on KVI. Lower rents? Kevin Schilling says no. Schilling sides with landlords over renters. And I'm like, I can't vote for you any harder, dude. Sorry.
Oh, crazy stuff.
Anyway, that's it for the mailbag here. Let me throw these in the shredder.
I love when the left clowns itself like that. So glorious. When we come back, my friends, there's actually something I disagree with Donald Trump on. Big announcement he made today, and any child of the 80s and 90s may start getting triggered by this. We'll tell you what it is when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. There was a thing when we were kids in schools that was simultaneously one of the worst things about growing up in the 80s and 90s. And for me personally, happened to be one of the things that was best for my personal development. What am I talking about? The Presidential Physical Fitness Awards. Now, some of you are probably getting triggered right now. You remember George Bush and Arnold Schwarzenegger pushing this? Yes, don't eat the donut. Do the Presidential Physical Fitness Award. You get a little patch and a little certificate. I remember every single year, what would happen was you'd have the rings, and you had to do pull-ups, and you had a chin-up bar, and you had to run a mile in the middle of a day, and then just go back to class. No problem. Just go back to class. Run it in your jeans and whatever button-down polo shirt you're wearing that day, and then just go back to class. You know, Olympians don't do that kind of stuff, but sure, run a mile and go back to class. The worst one for me was the sit and reach. I could deal with the shuttle runs. I could deal with anything else. The sit and reach was this box they bring out, and you sit there with your feet against it, and you have to throw your arms down so it shows you can touch your toes, which I could never do. Even when I was in good shape, I was not flexible. I'm not a bendy person, neither in my personal body nor in my politics. But, okay, so I am not bendy. Anywho, I remember every year I would fail at the sit and reach. I could never do the sit and reach. I could run a mile. I could do the chin-ups. I could do anything else. So I hated the Presidential Physical Fitness Awards. I hated them with the fire of 1,000 suns because I said, I'm going to put in all this effort to everything, and then I'm going to lose on the sit and reach. And one year, I actually managed to do the sit and reach. But I wasn't like keeping track of any of this kind of stuff. You know, the gym teacher was. I was not a popular middle schooler. I was not at all. I was actually kind of a loser. And I remember that when they were giving out the awards, I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is the time when all the jock kids get all their awards and little nerdy Ari Hoffman doesn't get his award. And I'm sitting there stewing in 6th grade. You could tell I'm not triggered by this at all, right, Mike? Not at all. I'm not scarred for life from any of this. And what happened was my gym teacher goes, and this next award I'm very surprised by. This next award, this person really put in their all this year. And it shows that when you try year after year after year and you really put in all your effort, you can really accomplish something. And he called up me. And that was actually, it gave me such a confidence booster because, yeah, that was exactly what I had done and actually was pretty monumental for my mental health, I guess you could say, for my self-confidence. Really helped me out. And that gym teacher and I actually ended up becoming very, very close. He's one of the formative figures in my life. He was the guy who gave me my confidence. He really, really did. At a time where, shall I just describe young Ari Hoffman for a minute at this age? There are pictures. They exist. Okay. So I had my hair perfectly swirled with the mousse and the gel in a side part. I had these glasses that look like Cracker Jacks with Coca-Cola frames on them. And I had a neon green Back to the Future hat with my jean jacket that I would wear every day. I was a sight to behold. And he didn't hold any of that against me. He gave me the self-confidence. I ended up joining the basketball team. I ended up playing on the basketball team. I ended up winning the Presidential Physical Fitness Award the next 2 years. But at the same time, I know there's some other kids that didn't. And when I hear President Trump make the announcement he did today, all of a sudden I started getting really, really triggered.
I'm pleased to announce that we're officially restoring the Presidential Fitness Test and the Presidential Fitness Award, and it's going to be a very big thing. From the late 1950s until the 2013, graduate scholars all across our country competed against each other in the Presidential Fitness Test, and it was a big deal. This was a wonderful tradition, and we're bringing it back.
Now, the truth is he's right. As triggered as I was, it got me in better shape. And you know what? We have so many kids that don't go outside these days. It's amazing how the doctors stopped asking, how much screen time does your kid get? Because before COVID, it was, hey, try to limit to like an hour a day, and that wasn't achievable. And now all the schools said, we'll go on Zoom anytime there's a snowstorm or a windstorm or it rains a little bit or something. They don't even ask that question anymore. Yeah. The truth is we should have the Physical Fitness Award. The truth is we should have healthier kids. And the truth is kids should want to compete. Competition is good. So as much as I know this thing's kind of triggering and kind of sucks, yeah, I kind of agree with it. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's up, man?
Oh, nothing much. Regarding your last segment talking about Democrats being the sue machine, as in the lawsuit machine.
Yeah.
My point of the matter is and I do believe this is going to happen soon, that if you people out there who are Democrats vote for these folks, you're going to get people like myself killed because of Democrats' lawlessness in Seattle.
I was going to say, it's like, you people. What do you mean, you people? What do we say with that letter? But yeah, they've already gotten people killed. There's already blood on their hands with these awful policies, just with illegal immigration alone. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from our friend Carrie in Island County. Carrie, what's going on?
Hey, Ari, how's it going?
Good, what's up?
I've missed talking to you. So a couple things. I was cracking up when you were talking about the Presidential PE Awards because I had a comment. Even though you might be triggered, the thing that's so awesome about that whole thing, whether a person or a student gets that award, the camaraderie that comes along and the confidence is more than the award. So
okay, hang on a second, Carrie. I'll agree with you on the confidence, as I said in my remarks. But the camaraderie? Those jock kids were like doing laps around me. There was no camaraderie. It was every man for themselves.
Yeah, but, there's something about, the underdog. So the main reason I called was to talk about Joe Kent. I met Joe in 2020 when I was running for Congress, and I drove from Whidbey Island down to Vancouver to meet Joe because we were both running for Congress. And I listened to him for the first time. Amazing man, smart beyond words. I'm a Navy wife, so I understand the intel community. And one of the things that he said in that speech was that if Trump would have won in 2020, he would have been on the Trump team. And it kind of went undetected, but it stuck in my mind. So I knew even when Joe was running for Congress the next two times, so three total, that eventually once Trump got back in office, Joe would be on the Trump team.
I'll say this. Yeah. I'll say this, Carrie. For me, I actually look at this as the perfect match for Joe Kent. Because I actually said, okay, he's going to be in Congress, fine, but being in a military role, being in an intelligence role, as a guy who was, according to Donald Trump, in the CIA, and we didn't know that before Donald Trump put that out there, let's remember that, but also a guy who's a Green Beret, this is the perfect guy for the role. Carrie, great to hear from you again. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, an absolutely bonkers story about somebody who's running for office locally that has now gotten national attention. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So aside from trying to cancel Sydney Sweeney, it looks like the left around here in Seattle is trying to cancel the Blue Angels. And Seafair starts, well, Seafair's been going on for a month, but the Seafair Festival itself is starting this weekend. The Blue Angels are flying all over Seattle today. A guy named David Rosen, he's from Slick Pics Photography, took a picture of the billboard which says, "Say no to the Blue Angels, too loud, war trauma, pollution." And behind it is the Blue Angels flying over the billboard, which is amazing. You can head on over to my social media. I posted this picture from David Rosen of Slick Pics Photography. You can see it over at Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, the Hofffather over on Twitter. It just cracks me up. I just wrote, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha, as my text for this because it's so funny. By the way, I love that there's these protests scheduled for the Blue Angels for Seafair tomorrow. And they say they're too loud. They say it's noise pollution. And yet they're planning on protesting with megaphones and loud music and noisemakers. Just making sure we got that. So to protest the noise, you're going to protest it with noise? Fun. Meanwhile, in national news of something locally, a left-wing, trans-identified city council member who was arrested for indecent exposure while protesting topless in Stevenson, Washington earlier this year, has announced a run for mayor. At the same time, the official is facing a recall campaign in the wake of the arrest. Lucy Lauser, who's a city council member in Stevenson, Washington, according to the Post Millennial, is running for mayor in the Democrat primary for August 5th. Archives of Lauser's social media link to Antifa and has talked about treating Republicans like Nazis. In April, when Lauser posted topless, police wrote in their report that they were tipped off by someone who said a female protester was standing on the sidewalk, exposing her chest in public. And that when police approached Lauser, the official claimed that displaying the breasts as an act of protesting was not considered obscene. Really? Lauser advised she was expressing her First Amendment right by exposing herself. Yeah, that's not city code, and it doesn't really work that way. So now this person is running for office, for mayor, while being recalled. A trans-identifying Antifa supporter who likes to go around buck naked. Yes, I'm sure that's good for the kiddies. I'm sure that's good for the children, right? And once again, Washington State embarrassing us nationally because this got picked up by libs of TikToks and every right-wing organization after it went there. So once again, we're a national joke again. This one here from the 253, talking about our earlier conversation about the Presidential Physical Fitness Award. I love the physical fitness presidential test as a kid in the 70s. Anything competition made me feel better. Like you, I had one that was hard for me to do, the softball throw. We didn't have the softball. I don't remember the softball throw. You had to throw it a certain amount of feet to get presidential. Okay, I would have been able to do that. I could actually pitch as a kid. I remember the first time I couldn't do it. And after that, I made it my goal to own that. I ended up with football, then track scholarship in college. Test me, I'll best it. What a great attitude. And yes, I completely agree with you, 253. Next time include name and town, so I can give you the proper kudos. When we come back, my friends, your chance to take the trip or keep the cash in our latest giveaway. Plus, looks like even Bob Ferguson's staff doesn't like him at all. We'll tell you why they want to flush the turd when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, what is SeaTac doing right that no one else is? And Mamdani is taking over the Democrat Party. But before we get to any of that, my friends, you work hard, you need a giveaway. Perhaps you need some financial relief. Well, we've got you covered with KVI's Take the Trip or Keep the Cash. That's right, my friends, this week. You can get away on an Alaskan cruise, glaciers, whales, and dinner with a view of the wild, or have a chance at $3,000 cash. Now, when I give you the word, people, I can't believe we're still having problems with this. When I give you the word, you text the word to the number I give you. Only text it once. Only text the word. Don't give me your name. Don't give me your phone number. Don't give me your address. Don't give me your email address. Don't give me any other vital statistic. Don't give me your social security number. Just the word itself, and only one time. And you text it to the number I give you. Don't send it to my social media. Don't call us with it. Don't email me with it. If you do any of that, you're not going to win. You're not going to be entered to win even. But if you follow the rules and you do exactly as I tell you, we'll get you in the daily drawing to get a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card. And you can win the trip or keep the cash with KVI. Today's word, oh, this is so appropriate. So appropriate that the Blue Angels are in town today. Today's word is jet. In fact, I think they just buzzed the studio. There they go again. Celebrating EVs. Oh, wait, no, that's Jay Inslee. The word is jet. Text the word jet, J-E-T, to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757, as in Jet City, as in each Blue Angel flies I can't even speak normally, an F-18 Super Hornet jet. Text the word jet, J-E-T, to 206-421-5757. They just keep coming back and coming back. That's 206-421-5757. You have until 5 o'clock to enter. Your next chance at winning comes tomorrow at 8 a.m. during the morning ride with Phil and Zach. Reminder to check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout delivery order, and so much more. By the way, all the stuff about canceling the Blue Angels, some memes are out today and they're glorious. There are cats flying the Blue Angels because of the cat lady who killed her cat, euthanized her cat because she doesn't like because she says the Blue Angels killed her cat. So I love the cats flying the Blue Angels. I don't even like cats, and those memes are cracking me up every time I see them. You know what you should do? Don't go to their stupid protest and counter-protest it. Don't do that. Just get all your friends and family to go to Seafair. In fact, my daughter's back in town. I'm going to try and go down to Seafair before the show tomorrow. I'm going to see if I can get down. Fridays are free, by the way, guys. I'm like the best spokesperson for Seafair. I love Seafair. Tonight I'm going home and putting up my Blue Angels flag on the house together with my American and Israeli flag. That's going up today. I love Seafair. It's my favorite weekend of the year. Saturday, we all get together because it's Sabbath for me and I can't go down to Seafair. We go to my in-laws' house, the highest point you can see in my neighborhood, and you go up there and you watch the Blue Angels. I love it. You want to stop these Looney Toonies? You support Seafair as much as you can. Go down to the pits. Go watch the hydros. It's a lot of fun. I hear they got a lot of new stuff this year. I'm excited to see it. It'll be a lot of fun. Meanwhile, you know who's not having a lot of fun? Bob Ferguson. His own staff is turning on him. Now, before I read you this article from the Seattle Times, I have a question I want to ask all of you, and I'm sincerely looking for answers on this one. So when I went down to Olympia this year to speak to the Republican caucus, they were showing me a few things around the building that were interesting. They were saying that the feeling there was that Bob Ferguson wasn't liked by the Democrats in the party. They really didn't like him. And why were they mad? Because he tried to be bipartisan in his inaugural address. You remember that speech? We were skeptical. I said, yeah, nice that you're saying all this, dude, but you're just trying to win points. But after that, the Democrats didn't like it. They thought he was putting his own personal ambitions to run for higher office above the party, and they made it their mission to destroy him. So while I was there, people pointed out to me that Bob Ferguson's staff had been taken away their free access of the chamber. That's just a petty move, which is basically, you better do what we tell you because we can do more to you. That was number one. Something else is there's a portrait that's always up of the governor. They had delayed Bob Ferguson's portrait being put up and left Jay Inslee's there. A not-so-subtle blank you to Bob Ferguson, as in, you think you're in charge? You're not in charge. We're in charge. So I want you to have that bit of salt before I give you this article from the Seattle Times. Now, according to Jim Brunner, Governor Bob Ferguson apologized to his staff last week for inviting former top aide Mike Webb on a state plane for a trip to the Tri-Cities that included official business and a political fundraiser. Stop. Can we break this down for a second? Aren't they the ones always talking about climate change and being good for the climate? And yet you took a state plane to the other side. You know, a car will use a lot less gas. It may take a little bit longer, but you're flying on your state plane? Okay. When I need to drive out to the Tri-Cities for real estate, I know I'm going to be in the car for 10 hours there and back, 5 hours one way, 5 hours the other way, but I prepare for it. I download my music, I get my podcasts, I hop in my Dodge Charger, which thankfully my friends over at Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram just serviced with new tires, oil change, the works. So it's all ready to go. And I might do it in like 4 hours, maybe not 5. I'm not entirely keeping the speed limit. I enjoy it. I enjoy my time. In an unusual and at times tense Zoom meeting on Thursday, the Times writes, Ferguson called the decision to bring Webb along for the June trip pretty stupid, according to audio obtained by the Seattle Times. Webb, the governor's former chief strategy officer and longtime political advisor, resigned in March amid allegations he created a hostile workplace environment for some of the women in the office. He denied the accusations, but said he'd step aside to avoid being a distraction. Now, this was something at the time I thought was weird. Mike, you know us around here. People send us tips all the time. If Mike Webb was doing this stuff, and I'm not saying he wasn't, let's believe all women for a second here. Let's say that he was. But don't you think this stuff would have been leaked to us a lot sooner? We would have heard something about this. Now, Mike Webb may be a total scumbag or he may be totally innocent of the charges. I don't know. But here was the shady thing. According to the Seattle Times, Webb's departure followed the earlier resignation of the governor's legislative director who quit over concerns about a toxic work environment, according to state lawmakers and others familiar with her departure. I don't remember mass exoduses from the Attorney General's office. I just remember them hiring hundreds of employees. Mike, do you remember any of that? I don't remember any. We never had stories about any of this kind of stuff. The one thing we always said about Bob Ferguson, actually two things. The two things we always said was that he was more dangerous than Jay Inslee because he was smart and he knew how to use the levers of power. Somebody who's smart and knows how to use the levers of power doesn't make mistakes like this. The shakeup spotlighted unusual turmoil in the new governor's administration, but Ferguson has steadfastly defended Webb, sparking tensions that have resurfaced following the plane trip in a recent media report suggesting there had been previous concerns about Webb's conduct. In the Zoom session, surreptitiously recorded and provided to the Seattle Times, some staff members expressed concerns to Ferguson and his chief of staff about Webb's continued close association with the governor. State law requires consent from all parties if a call is being recorded. The Seattle Times granted anonymity to the source of the audio to protect them from retaliation and legal trouble is what you're saying. One person said that the one staffer said on the call that Webb's presence on the plane put employees in a difficult position, make it seem like Webb, who now works for a private law firm, continues to have the governor's stamp of approval. Well, hang on a second. He's always defended him. I can't believe I'm defending Turd Ferguson here. In an emailed statement, Ferguson said he invited Webb on the State Patrol-operated plane because he told me he had a meeting of his own in the Tri-Cities. There was an extra seat on the plane, and I offered it. In hindsight, I realized Mike's presence on the plane may have been the wrong impression that he has a role in my administration. He does not. In short, I made a mistake, and it will not happen again. You know what I think actually happened? I think Ferguson figured, okay, guys, message received. I did all your insane bidding, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to resume my stuff, okay? Is that cool? All right. Oh, wait, not cool. Which means the Democrats have people in Ferguson's office. Now, when your office is that big, it's a shock it took this long, but that means they're saying, hey, dude, remember who you work for. You work for us. You don't work for you're not the governor. We run you. We control you. Another little subtle reminder. So anytime somebody says, oh, Ferguson's more moderate, where? Show me how. The next time Ferguson tries to pretend to be a moderate, you go, dude, you're the lackey for the Democrats, for the far left progressive Democrats. What'd you do in this session? The largest tax increase in Washington state history to cover your out-of-control spending. You guys are spending it on dumb things. You guys passed rent control. So you're never going to get your promise of more affordable housing units because no person who's a contractor or developer is going to be dumb enough to build in this state because they know they're not going to make any money off it. Since his resignation, Webb said he has been working as a public policy director with the law firm Singleton Schreiber. He is not an attorney and has not registered as a lobbyist. He describes his new job in an interview as a business development, including potentially help set up compensation funds for people harmed by wildfires in Washington and Oregon. The handwritten flight manifest for the trip listed a Matt Webb in addition to Ferguson, a handful of other aides, according to a copy provided by the Washington State Patrol. Chris Loftus, a patrol spokesman, attributed the first-name mismatch to a secretary's clerical error, which, by the way, if the guy's just hopping on the plane, that's Bob Ferguson saying to somebody, here's my friend Webb, and you didn't catch the first name. So you're like, I think I heard Matt. All right, put it on there. It's fine. Webb said, the people on the flight, I've worked with all of them. They're all friends. He said he got hugs from everyone, and no one told him they were uncomfortable. Well, yeah, you're coming on with the governor, but at the same time, yeah, this kind of checks out. Webb said he had a meeting in the Tri-Cities with leaders of a union representing Hanford workers as part of his new job. He said Ferguson stopped by to say hi to the union leaders and did not stay for the meeting. Webb said he also attended an official meeting Ferguson had with the SEIU officials and a political fundraising lunch for the governor, who has started raising money for his 2028 re-election campaign. He says, I have 14 years of inside knowledge working with the governor, assisting him on his agenda. And that was the capacity. So here's the thing, guys. Do you believe that this was a problem? Do you believe that the Democrats are sending a not-so-subtle message? What do you think's going on here? Because I think Bob Ferguson thinks a lot of these people are his allies, and they just see him as a means to an end. Means to an end. Jay Inslee was too dumb to realize he was being used. Ferguson realizes he's being used, and I don't think he likes it very much. My God, this is such a weird position for me. I'm not defending Ferguson. It just seems like he's kind of being railroaded by his own party, and that's really weird. Why is Bob all alone? No friends, no friends. That's what it kind of feels like to me right now. Well, this is what happens when you cave to the far left. They know they own you. You could have stood up, and you would have had the support of the Republican Party, but how many votes does that actually get you here in Washington? Thursday's Zoom session was held after Axios Seattle reported last week that Webb had been accused of pressuring or intimidating two women while he worked in the Attorney General's office. One allegation about 2013 personal encounter between Webb and a female staffer of a crime victim nonprofit surfaced during an audit of that nonprofit in 2019. Why does it take that long? 6 years for something? This stinks. This stinks. This smells. And by the way, I want to assume the people in Ferguson's office are scumbags. This just doesn't sound right. Ferguson's office said to the Seattle Times in March there have been no formal or informal complaints leveled against Webb. In the Zoom meeting, one Ferguson staffer questioned whether the governor's office had misled the public with such statements, calling them a breach of trust. So who's lying here? The staffers? The Democrats? Ferguson? Is his friend really a scumbag? This whole thing just smells to me. It just smells. Two state government employees familiar with the Zoom meeting said Ferguson's answers about Webb did not satisfy staff concerns. One said the governor appears to have a massive blind spot when it comes to Webb. That may be totally true, by the way. That might be totally true, where you go, this is my friend, and I stick up for my friend, and you're not going to tell me who I get to be friends with, even if the guy's a total scumbag. Many things can be true at once here. Many things can be true at once. What do you think, guys? Do you think this guy's being railroaded? Do you think Ferguson's being railroaded? Do you think there's something real here? Either way, the fact that this leaked out to the Seattle Times, this Zoom meeting, which was an apology, somebody is clearly sending a message to Bob Ferguson. Dude, you're our lackey. Dance, monkey, dance. You do what we tell you to do. That's my read on this situation. You agree, you disagree. You give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Bob in Portland says over on the Warrior Injury Law studio line, he says, maybe Turd is all alone because he is a vindictive weasel. you know what? You're mean enough to enough people. You don't have any friends left anymore. You burn all your bridges. He is vindictive. We know he's vindictive. What do you think he's going to do? The staffer who leaked this thing, he'll figure it out. Oh, he will figure it out. What do you think he'll do to that staffer? I think some staffer's about to be looking for a new job with another Democrat, would be my guess. Keep an eye on the office and see who gets fired coming up soon, because he knows that's the leaker to the Democrat handlers that are controlling him. Bob Ferguson is very, very vindictive. It's only a matter of time till he gets to me. By the way, you know when he's going to get to people like me and Brandy? I figured out when it's going to be, Mike. It's not going to be in the first term. It's going to be after he gets reelected in 2028. That's what he's coming gunning for all of us, because he'll think he's invincible, right? Like that guy in that James Bond movie. That's what he's going to think. He's going to think he can get away with whatever he wants. He's going to try and keep his nose clean this time because he wants to get reelected. But if he gets reelected, he knows that's as high as he goes. So he's just going to keep getting reelected time and time and time and time again. That's when he's going to start coming after people like us. He's going to come after people like me, but he's not going to go after drug traffickers. A Mexican national previously residing in Renton, Washington, has been sentenced to an additional 5 years in federal prison after being caught trafficking drugs while on the run from an earlier sentence. So let me translate that into English speak for you. An illegal alien from Mexico who's a drug runner didn't show up for his sentencing on previously dealing drugs and was busted again. Humberto Lopez Rodriguez was originally sentenced to 5 years in prison for drug trafficking, but failed to report to the Federal Correctional Institution in Lompoc, California. Wait a minute. Why was this guy allowed on bail and had a report date? Why, after he was convicted, wasn't he immediately taken into custody? Instead, he was arrested in December 2023 while heading back to Washington from California with 13 kilograms of cocaine and a loaded firearm in his vehicle. At a sentencing hearing this week, U.S. District Judge Tana Lin ordered the new sentence be served consecutively with his previous term. Why? Why aren't they back-to-back? She said, you committed this crime after you failed to surrender to corrections. You'll be deported after serving your sentence, and the American dream is dead for you. Good on that, but it should be 10 years, or maybe they just want him out of the country. This is a guy who's going to try and come back. They said the defendant continued to deal drugs while on pretrial release and later was arrested in a car with a drug load when he should have been serving his federal sentence. Why was this guy released? Why was this guy allowed out? Oh, Biden administration, right? Lopez Rodriguez was among 16 defendants charged in a multi-agency investigation to drug trafficking with ties to Mexico and Colombia. The probe culminated in June of 2024 when federal and local law enforcement executed 24 search and arrest warrants. At the time of those raids, Lopez Rodriguez was already behind bars following his December arrest. Well, there's a new sheriff in town, so now the guy is going to serve real time. This was an investigation by the DEA, SPD, IRS. These guys found 84,000 fentanyl pills, over a kilogram of fentanyl, 32 kilograms of cocaine, 15 kilograms of methamphetamine, nearly 3 kilograms of heroin, 18 firearms, and $71,000 in cash, which means he thought he could get away with it. It means he thought he could get away with it because for the last 4 years, he was actually able to do so. There's a new sheriff in town. We're not doing this kind of stuff anymore. We're just not. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, the Los Angeles mayor tries to take a victory lap on the feds and absolutely face plants. It's going to be really fun to talk about when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Hey, I got a question. Can anybody confirm for me if the West Coast is still there? Can anybody let me know? I heard a massive tsunami was coming and it was going to wipe everything out and we're all going to die. Yeah, can anybody confirm for me it's still there? Oh, it is? All right, great, thank you. Did anybody hear about the tsunami from PBS? Did anybody hear about it from PBS or NPR or any of those stations? It's not because they were defunded. It's because people have alternative means of finding this stuff out. Wait a minute. Didn't we get a whole bunch of weather warnings, Mike? From the feds and wait, I thought Trump defunded all that. I thought we didn't have the weather people anymore. They may be wrong, but they're weather people. That's what they do. They're always wrong. So, two things right there disproved by the tsunami that wasn't. Yeah, sucks for what happened in Hawaii. A lot of flooding in Hawaii. Really terrible for those people, so I don't want to make too much fun of it. But at the same time, seemed like we had ample warnings. Mike, didn't everybody go wall to wall on that stuff? You could not get away from it. And I think I found out about the tsunami from social media. That's where I found out about it. I think I actually saw it from our friend Shannon O'Donnell over at Como. I think I saw her post first because she tagged us in it. I think I saw that one first. At no point did I see any reference to NPR, CBS, or any of that kind of stuff. So 2 Democrat lies just shot down right there. Here's another Democrat lie for you. You ready for this one? So the troops are withdrawing from Los Angeles because there haven't been any riots in a while, because the troops were in Los Angeles to make sure there were no riots in Los Angeles. So Mayor Karen Bass, who's a dum-dum, she tweets on X, "Another win for Los Angeles tonight. 1,000 more troops are retreating. We will continue this pressure until all troops are out of L.A." What pressure? You guys put a lot of pressure on day 1, day 2, day 3. Haven't heard from you in a really, really long time. They were protecting federal facilities. Also, I might be mistaken, but didn't you guys try to sue to stop them from being there, and that didn't work either? They're leaving because they did the job. They accomplished it so well where you completely failed for days and let Antifa and all these other radical organizations destroy your city. Burn Waymo cars to the ground. Order them to burn them to the ground. You're taking a victory lap on this? She got ratioed hard. Ratioed is where all the comments are against you. Pete Hegseth, though, did have the absolute best line. "You're welcome, Mayor. These brave troops are redeploying because their mission was so successful. You should be thanking them for saving your city from mobs and chaos. We will continue to support law enforcement even when you don't." Boom shakalaka. He's 100% right. Now, one thing I have to take the Trump administration to task over, when are you guys coming here? When are you guys going to Portland? You see those riots happening every single night outside that Portland ICE facility? I know you've reinforced them, but send in the troops. Federalize the National Guard out there in Portland, and let's get this done. Let's just shut down all those Antifa types. They keep rebuilding their little supply tents. Katie Davenport has been covering all this stuff nonstop. I keep hearing that Tom Homan's coming. When is he actually coming? It's gotten so bad that the left actually is making fun of him about it. When are you showing up? But meanwhile, there's some other good news for the left coast. Attorney General Pam Bondi has appointed veteran prosecutor Scott Bradford to serve as a U.S. attorney for the District of Oregon. This is huge news. According to the Post-Millennial, Bradford, 49, was sworn into office on Monday by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals Judge Daniel J. Forrest. He has spent over a decade prosecuting in the U.S. Attorney's Office in Portland, where he has served as chief of its National Security and Cybercrimes Unit, chief of its White-Collar Crimes Unit, and deputy chief of the Criminal Division, according to the Department of Justice. This is huge. If confirmed by the U.S. Senate, Bradford would replace William Naras, a seasoned prosecutor who assumed the role when the Trump administration instructed former U.S. Attorney Natalie K. Wright to resign in February, shortly after President Donald Trump re-entered the White House. Naras served as White's first assistant. President Trump has submitted more than 30 nominations after instructing the Department of Justice to terminate all remaining Biden-era U.S. attorneys. Trump has long maintained that Biden's DOJ has been weaponized against political opponents of the Democrat Party, and we know that's becoming truer and truer every day the more we find out. Now, appointees may serve in an interim capacity for a period of 120 days, like Elon Musk, before being confirmed by the U.S. Senate. If the appointment is not confirmed, federal judges decide whether to extend it for an additional 120 days or to appoint someone themselves to serve until the vacancy is filled. Hang on one second here. You guys are appointing U.S. attorneys in Portland, and I know they need it. I'm not saying they don't. We're still waiting. We're waiting. Out here in Seattle, this has been one of my biggest criticisms of the Trump administration. It kind of feels like we're forgotten out here. It kind of feels like that. When are we going to get a real U.S. attorney out here who is appointed by the Trump administration to look out for the rest of us who keep losing elections? When are we going to get somebody out here to stick up for law and order, stick up for ICE, and stop all the... Does it need to be that there's riots every night like in Portland? Does it need to be they're burning down Waymo cars like they did in Los Angeles? Maybe we can preemptively solve this, guys, if you have a real U.S. attorney here and these guys know they're going to be facing big boy time. Like, for example, Jeremy Lawson, the guy who allegedly assaulted Cam Higbee. That guy should be facing federal charges. We shouldn't have had to wait for all the stuff happening at the local level. It should be the feds who are charging this guy. This whole thing was around a federal building. We need the federal government here, and it hurts me every time I say that. Every time I say that, it hurts my soul. As we say in Jewish world, hurts my neshama. But we really need a U.S. attorney out here. We really need the feds out here. Otherwise, people like Bob Ferguson, people like Nick Brown, people like Bruce Harrell are just going to keep pushing their luck and pushing their luck and pushing their luck and pushing their luck. When we come back, my friends, a candidate is running for King County Council who was not on my radar but caught the attention of Mike. And I'm really happy he did because you're going to like what he has to say. We're going to talk to Peter Kwan when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, my friends, it's not often that Mike weighs in on the candidates that he likes, but Mike lives out in SeaTac, and he said to me, Ari, I really like this guy, Peter Kwan, who's running for King County Council. I think he'd be great for the show. So, of course, we reached out, and he joins us now on the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Peter, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be on here, Ari, and I'm grateful for being invited to be on the show.
I got to say, I'm looking at your mailer right now. I'm looking at your brochure, and this is just the wish list of everything we like. Oppose tax increases, improve public safety, helping neighbors in need, solving homelessness. You sure you're from this area? Because that's way, way too rational for the people around here.
I get that comment a lot, and what's really interesting is that most, if not all, of the other candidates are also running on the same platform. And this is the same platform I've been running on over the last 10 years, and I've actually solved these issues.
And I got to say, that's the other thing, is that some of them have been running on this stuff, and some of them actually mean this stuff. You actually mean this stuff. You show the stuff you're interested. You have a record of success where many other people don't. Why don't you give us some of your highlights?
Well, one of the things that people find hard to believe is when we talk about cost of living, rising taxes and all of that stuff. The latest one, of course, being the insanely high gas tax, that's making it difficult for people to be able to afford to live here. I tell them that in the city of SeaTac, we actually had not increased our local property tax levy rate for the last 10 years in a row. And people find that very hard to believe. But it's true. It's absolutely true. We have a policy in place that will actually prevent the council from increasing our property tax levy as long as our reserve fund is met. And that has been met for the last 10 straight years. So that's one of them. The other one that people find hard to believe is, everyone talks about, well, we've got to do something about this homeless issue. And in SeaTac, we don't have a single homeless encampment or even a single homeless tent in SeaTac. And we never have, because we take care of the issue immediately. We don't wait until there's 150 of them to have to deal with, which is a bigger problem. And so people find that hard to believe. And
Wait a second. Hang on. I'm going to fact check this with Mike. Mike is confirming that there are no homeless encampments in SeaTac. And I'm just thinking to myself, wait a second. You haven't raised property taxes and you don't have any homeless encampments. What are you guys doing right that everybody else is doing wrong? Because everybody else says you give us more money, we'll solve the problem. You guys don't seem to be asking for that.
No, we are not asking for that. What we do is I've introduced and we have adopted, the council has adopted a data-driven decision-making process, and it also includes expected and actual results. And that is what I think a lot of folks are not focused on, is what is the expected result and what is the actual result. And if the actual result is not meeting expectations, then we need to reset and try something different. And in SeaTac, we do that on a regular basis. We check and make sure that the expected results are what we are getting as actual results. And if it's not, then we have no problem resetting and trying something different. And over the course of, the last 10 years plus, we have been able to fine-tune our solutions so that they actually work and provide the results that we are expecting.
You're just talking crazy now, Peter. I mean, changing things when they're not working on things that do work. You're talking absolutely crazy right now. I'm not sure the people around here are common sense enough for you. Now, as I look at some of your successes, I'm looking at environmental achievements. I'm looking at a real smorgasbord, for lack of a better word, of things that the left and the right can get excited about because they're all common sense ideas. It looks like you guys just take the common sense. Like, for example, SeaTac Airport had a plan where they want to cut down all these trees. You stopped them from doing it, which makes good sense, by the way. It's not like Sound Transit, which cuts down thousands of trees and says they're more green for the environment. You're actually doing that kind of stuff. You're increasing funding for parks. You're supporting senior meal programs. You're doing all this stuff that should be bipartisan. You're doing all this common sense stuff. And now I see why Mike likes you so much.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And a lot of the approaches that I try to work on, I try to focus on, are really based on, number one, we all need to first agree that something is a problem and that it is a priority that needs to be solved and worked on. Okay, if we can all agree on that first, then the actual solution process becomes a lot easier, right? And the challenge, though, especially in politics around here, is that oftentimes these days, the left, folks on the left might not even want to talk with folks on the right, and vice versa. We really need to talk and work together to achieve common solutions, because at the end of the day, it affects everybody. It doesn't matter which side you're on.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, something else here that a lot of people have been talking about recently is the low voter turnout. And I keep telling people that when there's low voter turnout, your vote is worth more. Your vote means more. So I think it's about the same low numbers we're seeing in SeaTac, that we're seeing in Seattle, that we're seeing everywhere else. This looks like it's across the state. It's across it for this primary. I think it's because it's in the middle of August and nobody's paying attention to any of this kind of stuff in the middle of the summer. So if you have to give a pitch to voters why this election matters so much, give it to us right now.
Okay, so in King County District 5, which is the race that I'm involved in, the current turnout is 9.5%. Okay, 9.5%. That is super, super low. So you're right. What this means is that if you do decide to vote, your vote is more valuable now, because you're part of one of the less than 10% of voters who are actually voting. So it carries more weight. It's counted as a larger percentage of the fraction of votes. What I would like to say is, it's not just that you need to vote. You need to encourage everybody to also vote, because 9% is just, it's very, very dismal. It's disappointing. It's very dismal. And at the end of the day, we have more people complaining about issues than voting on these issues.
Now, Peter, before we let you go, Mike has a question, and this is a very important question. His entire endorsement hinges on this question. And if you answer it the wrong way, I don't think he's going to be as big of a fan as he's been until this point. Will pizza nights continue?
Yes, absolutely. Pizza nights have been going on approximately every other week after a CTAC council meeting, and they will continue. When I get to the King County Council, I am going to expand that to include other cities as well.
Excellent. Now I got to hit you up to find a kosher pizza place, so then maybe I can come out for pizza nights. Peter Kwan, you want to support him, you want to volunteer for him, you want to donate to him, you want to support his campaign like Mike does and the Big Mike Militia does, like we do over here on the Ari Hoffman Show, please head on over to Peter Kwan, that's KWON.com, that's peterkwan.com. Give him your support. He's one of the good ones, and he's bipartisan, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. This is a candidate you should be supporting. Peter Kwan, thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
Always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, you have just under 10 minutes to get in that keyword I gave you at 4 o'clock. And you know what? I'm feeling generous because it is Seafair weekend. So the keyword today at 4 o'clock was jet. Text that on over to 206-421-5757, and you could be entered to take the trip or keep the cash. Also, don't forget, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win more fantabulous prizes, including $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to see Adam Sandler, the Sandman himself, over at Climate Pledge Arena in October. In fact, hopefully I'll be going. You might even get to see me there. My friends who are Democrats who listen to this show, I hate to break it to you. I've told you time and time again that it is no longer your party. You didn't leave the party left you. Your party is now the party of Zoran Mamdani. Every single mainstream Democrat has embraced this guy. And if they're afraid to come out and endorse this guy because too much flack or they're in a purple district or something, they're still endorsing this guy. Let's take Pete Buttigieg. Pete, who's doing everything he can to become the next president of the United States. He grew a beard because he looks too much like a man-child. He stopped wearing the jacket because he looked too much like he was wearing his dad's suit. So he's got this whole image rebrand. He was asked about Zoran Mamdani. Here's what he said.
I was talking the other day to a Democratic member of Congress representing part of New York City who said to me essentially what you're saying. Mamdani, in many ways, is the future. He knew how to campaign. He's doing everything right. There's a lot to learn from him. And this lawmaker said, I haven't endorsed him yet because I have a lot of Orthodox Jews in my district. What do you make of that contradiction?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's kind of distinguishing between tactics and ideology. And I would say, you know, he's further left than I am. But also, I think that what he's been able to do is something that our party ought to learn from.
You see how he's talking out of both sides of his mouth? So I'm not going to endorse the guy, but what he's done is amazing. It's amazing. I don't want to alienate the far left. It's just like when we were talking earlier about Ann Davidson, when we were talking earlier about Bruce Harrell. I don't want to alienate the left. I don't want to alienate my Jewish voters and donors. And yet, they're all backing this guy. So Zoran Mamdani had this idea for a government-run grocery store. It's funny that this report came out right as Mamdani was pushing this idea. This came out from NBC out in Kansas City, and just shows how these policies have been tried and they failed.
It's clear this Sunfresh at 31st and Prospect is struggling. This is the first section people see when they come in. There's barely any produce. A lot of the coolers and shelves around the store look the same way, empty. So shoppers have been asking us, if the store isn't closing, then where is all the food? A rotten smell comes through the door, and anywhere you turn, you'll see products that need to be restocked. No hot food or deli.
I watch people walk in and walk out.
The grocery store has received financial assistance from the city, but has been unable to keep those shelves stocked in an area that in the past has often been referred to as a food desert.
Around here, a good thing don't last too long.
And it will impact a lot of people and a lot of families.
The city owns the Linwood Shopping Center. A nonprofit operates the grocery store.
Wonder why it's not doing well. Turns out free market saves lives. Turns out the free market can actually run the stuff, and Zoran Mamdani is a dangerous fool. He doesn't want this stuff for himself. He wants this stuff for you. This is a guy who wants to hang out in his parents' Ugandan mansion with private security and electronic blocking devices. You know why you haven't seen any pictures of the wedding? You want some bets here, Mike? I'll put money on this right now. He's going to sell them to People Magazine. He's going to sell them to one of the outlets and make money off it, the oh-so-great socialist that he is, if he hasn't done it already. Why else would he have electric jamming devices at the house? So nobody else could do it. You're going to say, oh, it's for privacy. Really? Just wait. Right before the election, all of a sudden, you're going to see all these wedding pictures. Oh, isn't he a nice family man? Oh, isn't the Hamas-supporting socialist a good family man? He had all that private security, and yet this is the guy who wants to defund the police. So when he got back to New York, he was called out on this yesterday.
And that was your first stop after coming back from Uganda. Talk to me about that. You've had security concerns. Did you fly commercial? Did you fly private? I know the Post reported on extra security at your wedding celebration. Was that a heightened sense of security, and did you have any issues going to customs?
My life is sadly not the one that it was. There are far more threats, and with that comes precautions that I wish I didn't have to take, though they are also precautions that I am immensely grateful for, especially in the example of the NYPD detail that I have here in New York City.
It doesn't mention that private flight, does he now? Doesn't address that at all. Nope. But you do have your private security. You're grateful for your private security, but you want to defund it for everybody else. My friends, this is the Democrat Party. It's the party of AOC. It's the party of Bernie Sanders. It's the party of Zoran Mamdani. Believe it or not, Bernie Sanders won in 2016. He won, he played the long game, and he won. And people are gravitating towards this insanity. Every single Democrat. I said John Fetterman and Richie Torres and all those guys were wrong when they said Zoran Mamdani was a gift for the GOP. He's not. You're going to see article after article after article demonizing him, and that may rile up your base, but you're not winning hearts and minds. He's winning hearts and minds. And now every Democrat is following his insanity. Every single one is going to do this. So the Democrat Party is only getting more and more radical. And we know what that's like. We live here in Washington State. When we come back, my friends, a verdict came in the story about that honor-killing trial of the parents that were caught on video trying to strangle their daughter to death when she wouldn't marry a man in Iraq. We've got the verdict for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free-for-all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniels Barilla gift card and tickets to see Adam Sandler. But before we get to any of that, my friends, we got some breaking news for you right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
There has been a verdict of the two Iraqi parents who were accused of attempted murder of their teenage daughter in what many called an honor killing, an attempted honor killing. And I am shocked by this verdict. They have been found not guilty. Now, people who have been longtime listeners of the Ari Hoffman Show, you guys know what I usually do is I usually wait for a trial to be over for the jury to get all the information and go to deliberate. And then I weigh in because I want to see what came out of trial. This one, we have been following very, very closely. I have watched the majority of the testimony. I have read as many documents as I can get my hands on, and I don't know how the hell this happened. I really, really don't. Let's go through the reporting we just got from Como News. Ihsan and Zara Ali were accused of trying to kill their teenage daughter outside Timberland High School last fall. They were caught on video. The incident was caught on video. Let's put that there, number one. After 3 days of deliberations, and I knew it was a problem because it was dragging on. The longer things drag on, the better it is for the defense every single time. A jury found both parents not guilty of attempted murder. However, the girl's father, Ihsan, was found guilty of assault and unlawful imprisonment. Stop right there. How can you find him guilty of assault when it's in the video but not attempted murder? All the testimony was how the girl was barely breathing. And by the way, there was nobody really on the defense witness list. It was pretty slim and pretty pathetic. They were basically character witnesses. That's about it. Going, oh, they're not that bad. They're really nice people. I waved hi to them one time. All of the legitimate testimony, all of the relevant testimony was that girl was almost dead. That girl couldn't breathe. Her eyes were rolling up into the back of her skull. She was afraid for her life. She ran to the school saying, my parents are trying to kill me. And you find him not guilty? How do you find him guilty of assault? Hey, unlawful imprisonment? You mean holding her on the ground in a chokehold? But not guilty for attempted murder? Sentencing for both parents is set for mid-August. Mrs. Ali will be released from custody on her own personal recognizance because she was found not guilty of attempted murder or assault, which is crazy because after they pulled off Dad, Mom jumps in trying to kill her own daughter. Multiple witnesses testified during the trial. They saw Ihsan Ali trying to strangle his 17-year-old daughter. So this one witness said she's unconscious, and he continues to strangle her around the neck for another 15 to 18 seconds, and would have continued to do so even longer but for the intervention of those adults. The initial investigation indicated Ali may have threatened his daughter with the so-called honor killing for refusing to go to Iraq for an arranged marriage to an older man, but prosecutors later wrote in court documents there is no express evidence that such was the motivation of either defendant in the case. There you go. That's what it was. The problem was you guys overstretched. It should have, leave out the honor killing stuff, guys. It should have just been murder or not murder. Is it attempted murder? Is it not attempted murder? But right there, prosecutors blew it. During closing arguments, prosecutors said Zahara Ali appeared to try and help her husband carry out the attempted murder. They said when you look at that video, you see she does not provide any aid at any time to her child. Zero aid. That is not an effort to comfort her child. Again, that is not where her loyalty lies in this situation. And she demonstrates that over and over and over again. Defense attorneys for the Alis zeroed in on intent, and they say neither parent was trying to kill their daughter that day. Yeah, even though they're strangling her around the neck. Guys, it's not Homer Simpson here. This is a real life. Eric Kading, who represented Ihsan Ali, said there's no nefarious intent. There's no intent to hurt anybody badly. There's no intent to kill anybody. There's an intent to take your daughter home. Really? You know, I've gotten pretty mad at my kids sometime. I never strangled them around the neck. My client is not guilty, said Timothy Leary, who represents Zahar Ali, and I think we can all agree this is a tragedy. They certainly could have done things differently, but that does not make this a crime. Wow. Prosecutor blew this one worse than the OJ trial. You've got video of this one, guys. Every single witness backed up what happened, but because you may have gone for the sensationalization of the honor-killing aspect of this, you made the classic lawyer mistake. It seems to be from an initial read of this, you overcharged. Now, you should charge for murder, but you don't need to include the honor-killing stuff. That may have actually forced their hand. And the jury's going, well, was it an honor killing or not an honor killing? Were they just mad at the daughter or not? If you confuse a jury, you lose. And this may have been what cost them the case. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. I have no legal training whatsoever. But to me, that's what this sounds like. What do you think? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This one from Alice in Olympia regarding the attempted honor killing. The parents were just going to try and choke some sense into her, right? I'm sure the parents love America, but they want to ship their daughter off to an awful place. How much were they getting paid for that? Did the dollar amount come up in a court case? I didn't hear anything about that, about the marriage stuff in any of the documents I saw. But it is a really, really good question. Guys, this is a society we don't understand. And unfortunately, too many people think of it as, oh, those poor people, we just don't understand their culture, don't understand their society. I understand their society completely. I really, really do. And it's a good thing President Trump does, too, because, unfortunately, too many other people in the world just don't. I don't know if you guys have been seeing the reports recently about what's going on in the Middle East, but absolutely debunked allegations, which we have done on the show time and time again, about starvation in Gaza. That's not what these pictures are showing. These pictures are showing kids who are in bad physical shape, either due to genetic disorders like cystic fibrosis and many other diseases. It's very, very sad. But Hamas is doing what Hamas does. Hamas is not going to return the hostages. You know why? It's all they got left. It's the only thing keeping them in power in Gaza. And because of that, they're not going to give up the only leverage they have left. They want to stay in power. And now, unfortunately, the international community is helping them out. Canada announced that they will recognize a Palestinian state. Who are you making a deal with exactly? Who is the Palestinian government? What? The Palestinian Authority, who's an offshoot of Fatah that's still paying terrorists, including paying out the terrorists with the pay-to-slay program, who carried out the October 7th attacks? Mahmoud Abbas is what, like almost 90 years old? He's in the 19th year of a 4-year term. He was elected in 2006 for a 4-year term. Would you like to know who was at the top of the charts in 2006? The Backstreet Boys. I know they've got that big reunion show or whatever it is over at the Sphere that everybody's posting on social media, but they ain't exactly the number one band in the world anymore, if you know what I'm saying. That's how long this guy has been in power for. And Canada is going to recognize a Palestinian state after these Palestinian terrorists committed the worst atrocities against Jews since the Holocaust? That's your reward for October 7th? France is talking about doing it too. Germany is talking about doing it. All the Europeans want to do it. They all want to do it now. Why? Because they want this war to end. Well, guess what? So do I. So do I. We all want this war to end. But it could have been over on October 8th. Return the hostages and surrender. This could have been over 2 years ago. Hamas walked away from the negotiating table. And as soon as they walk away from the negotiating table, they've got their PR and marketing ready to go. They send out those pictures. The New York Times publishes it. Seattle Times and other outlets pick it up. It goes all over the world. When the New York Times published their retraction/correction yesterday, they only put it in an account which got about 85,000 views. The other one got millions, tens of millions. They didn't want to admit they made a mistake. At least President Trump is still clear on this stuff.
On the second question about a Palestinian state, the president expressed his displeasure and his disagreement with the leaders of France, the United Kingdom, and Canada. He feels as though that's rewarding Hamas at a time where Hamas is the true impediment to a ceasefire and to the release of all of the hostages. So to your first question, the president wants to see all of the hostages released. He cares deeply about this. He has met with many of the former hostages, many of the families of those who have loved ones who are still being held hostage in Gaza. I have met with them too. It is absolutely devastating what these poor people have been through, and the president is always thinking about them, and that's why he's designated his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, who's doing a tremendous job to release the hostages and to end this conflict. But the president has always said the last remaining hostages, now there are 20 living hostages in Gaza, will always be the hardest because Hamas is unfortunately using these innocent people as bargaining chips. But nevertheless, we are committed to seeing this come to an end.
Exactly. You know, a hostage video was released today of some kid who looked like he used to be a really good-looking kid. He looks like a skeleton out of the Holocaust now. They released a video of that. And they do this to mess with us. They are following the same pattern they followed for 2 years. They lie and say there's no aid. There are millions of meals waiting, and the UN won't distribute them, and Hamas keeps stealing it. The UN admitted on their own website, in their own data, that over 90% of the aid is being stolen by Hamas and sold. That's how they're funding their operations. Plus, can you name a single other conflict in the world, in world's history, where somebody who was attacked was then required to provide aid to the enemy who attacked them? The only examples I can find are Israel providing aid to Hamas and providing aid to the Palestinians. You know, Germany, let's talk about Dresden for a minute. So the UK now wants to recognize a Palestinian state. Do you know what those guys did to Dresden? Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. Thank God the president is clear-eyed on this. He says Hamas didn't want to make a deal. They walked away from the negotiating table because they went to play their little PR game because it's the only way they have left to win.
It was too bad. Hamas didn't really want to make a deal. I think they want to die, and it's very, very bad.
Are you done?
And it got to be to a point where you're going to have to finish the job. They really they asked for things. Don't forget, we got a lot of hostages out. So now we're down to the final hostages. And they know what happens after you get the final hostages. And basically, because of that, they really didn't want to make a deal. I saw that. So they pulled out, and they're going to have to fight, and they're going to have to clean it up. You're going to have to get rid of it.
You would have thought that the UK would have learned by now not to appease the enemy. You would have thought Europe would have learned by now not to appease the enemy. I mean, really, thank God for President Trump, that he is clear-eyed on all this, that he understands all this. This is beyond crazy, beyond crazy. They should have known this already. We go to the Warrior Injury Law text line, and there's a lot of people with a lot of reaction to this insane verdict out of Lacey, Washington. By the way, ICE hasn't gotten back to me if they're in this country legally or not. I need to check in with ICE again and ask that question again, because they still haven't gotten back to me. By the way, very unlike them. I usually get a response right away on this stuff. Something's not right here. This one from Eben and Bonnie Lake. Ari, it doesn't matter if we understand their culture or society. If they want to live here in America, they need to understand our society and culture, follow our laws, or get out. This verdict is flippin' disgusting, which I completely agree. Steve from Shoreline says, I was totally blown away when I heard the not guilty verdict earlier today. The jury was way out to lunch. These two people are not fit to have children. I hope the daughter will not have to be in the presence of these two murderers ever again. Yeah, I mean, this is how all of you feel. All of you feel across the Warrior Injury Law studio line, the text line. We go to the Warrior Injury Law phone line. Take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's going on, man?
A couple of things. I want to break a bit of news for you, but first I just want to say thanks to the Blue Angels for all they've done for our country and community. Greatly appreciate all the positive messages, like it gets better. And so when I get depressed or sad, that's what I think about. And of course, my Fat Albert ride 10 years ago today, best day of my life. But it isn't the only reason why I'm calling in. I want to bring some news from X.
Yeah? What do you got for us?
Ever hear of Representative Randy Fine?
Yeah, sure. I like Randy Fine.
He just called. He was able to use a 2019 Florida state law when he was a representative in Florida. called up Florida State University and got on emergency suspension
Oh, the student. Okay, hang on. I'm going to say this, not that I don't trust you, Joe, but let me tell the story because I want to make sure nobody cusses on air or anything. I know you know not to, but let me just do this one, okay? So basically, and you tell me if I leave out any details, there's a student at Florida State University who went on this anti-Semitic tirade against the Jewish students down there, and Florida doesn't usually put up with this kind of stuff, but the video went viral. So what did Randy Fine do?
Randy picked up the phone and called the university and said, you need to deal with this student immediately. And the Florida State University police have talked to both the victim and the student, and the assailant is currently suspended, and not just suspended, but facing an emergency expulsion hearing soon, as well as no trespass from campus, which means he can't come on.
Yeah, because this one was threatening to kill some Jewish student on campus, as I understand. This isn't a freedom of speech issue. This is a threatening to kill somebody issue. Joe, I was going to save this for tomorrow. I'm glad there's been an update, so it'll be fresh for tomorrow. But yeah, I had that audio saved so that Mike could censor it tomorrow. Mike, I apologize. There's a lot of censoring to do with that video. Joe, appreciate the update. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Yeah, this here, everybody's upset about this verdict. Everybody is. This one here from John in Auburn. Ari, any chance Hamas has AI capability to make it look like the hostages are still alive? I don't know how Israel determines who's alive and who doesn't, but they seem to know. They always say, we think it's 21, which means it might be a little less. They've gotten signs of life in the past. I don't think it's AI. That video I saw did not look like AI. AI isn't that good yet. AI looks too perfect or gets things wrong sometimes. That hostage video didn't look like AI. It just looked really, really sad. Question is, are we going to be done with this stuff soon? Israel, at this point, I think you may have to say we're losing hundreds of Israeli soldiers. You may have to say, you know what? It's just time to go in and finish the job. Really unleash those gates of hell. Because I don't know how else this thing ends, and it may be time to just carpet bomb Gaza and call it a day if Hamas isn't going to surrender. When we come back, my friends, our friend, protester Bennett, actually has a great cause we want to tell you about and actually had some fascinating insight on progressives and who they're going to vote for on this election. We're going to talk to him when we come back. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on The Ari Hoffman Show. My friends, I try not to judge books by their covers, but we all have our partisan issues and we all have our internal feelings, and sometimes that's very hard to do, especially somebody like me who is a ready, fire, aim kind of guy. Well, you know protester Bennett. He calls the show. We disagree on a lot of things, but I believe in his heart of hearts he truly means well, even though we disagree on the majority of politics. I found out something fascinating about our friend Bennett Hazelton, who I think I'm going to start calling Bennett the Protester, who's my frenemy, or my frenemy, Bennett Hazelton, because I found out he's a kidney and a partial liver donor. And actually, he is going to Germany to compete in the World Transplant Games. And I thought that was such a good cause that we invited him over on the show. Joining us now on the Warrior Injury Law Studio line is Bennett the Protester, my new frenemy. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Hey, I was actually hoping I would get a couple guesses about what my new nickname was. I was thinking chopped liver, very popular with your people, or maybe tie in with my free speech views, the Libertarian.
Oh, that's very good. I think chop liver might be good because you're missing part of yours now, but yeah, I kind of like that one. So tell me about this. Is this a fundraiser? Is this something people donate to? Or is this more of like a community building type event that you all compete in these games?
The World Transplant Games has been going on since 1978, and it's not a fundraiser so much as like an awareness builder. It's showing that how much people can still live their full lives after being an organ recipient or being a living organ donor. And there are a lot more organ recipients there than living donors there as well.
I was fortunate enough that a couple of members of my community, who it was a daughter who gave an organ to her father, they do a trip every year, and one year they asked me to take them out on the boat to go tubing, and actually King 5 covered it at the time. So yeah, I thought that was really, really nice. So Bennett, let's talk about this a little bit more. Is that this isn't something people donate to? There's nothing for that?
We had now I'm blowing an opportunity if there's a place to give money online, but we had like individual fundraisers to cover our own expenses. But the main purpose of the whole event is to just let people know that this is a thing and that this can be done. Because back in 2019 when I did the liver donation, it's relatively hard to call around and find a place that would do it. Now, of the ones in the area, UW Medicine, which I know you give them a lot of crap, but they do actually do living donor transplants from either people that you know or anonymous. A stranger can donate a piece of their liver to a baby or a small child. UW Medicine is the only one in the area that does that. But the big three also do anonymous kidney transplants. So Swedish and Virginia Mason in medicine. But it's also a thing where, like, from the time that you contact them, if you're interested, to the time that it actually happens, it could be a year or more, because they do a very extensive physical and probably even more extensive psychological screenings to make sure that you could do it. So all your callers that are like, oh, man, he's just like the crazy leftist. Like, no, I'm not. I've got the big C-section scar to prove it.
All I'll say is that if you want to find out more about these games, the website is WTG2025.com. That's WTG2025.com. And any conversation with Bennett would not be complete unless we discuss something in local politics. So Bennett knows that I have been unhappy with the Seattle City Attorney, and we have different reasons for being unhappy with the Seattle City Attorney, but he has filed a bunch of public disclosure requests because he was unhappy that the Seattle City Attorney was calling out a specific judge. Bennett, why don't you tell us what you found in those requests?
Okay, so the backstory was about a year and a half ago that Ann Davison, city attorney, started filing motions disqualifying this judge, Pooja Vadati, from hearing criminal cases. And Ann Davison put out this press release about her, claiming that the judge had mishandled certain cases, but then she didn't say what the cases were. And the judge herself said that she was confused. She didn't know what cases Davison was referring to. And she went on King 5 and wrote an editorial to The Stranger and saying, look, I mean, we can have this conversation. Just tell me what the cases are that you're talking about. This, when you step back and think about it, like in a completely nonpartisan way, this is very strange. Like, suppose for the sake of argument, this was the worst judge in the world, and I don't think that, but suppose that she was, and Davison was putting out legitimate criticisms of her. What could possibly be a legitimate reason not to say what cases you're talking about? And Vadati just said over and over, just tell me the case numbers and we can have this conversation. And the city attorney never did. And so that was what I did with the public disclosure request. And sometimes this is a little confusing to people because they're like, okay, you're the guy with like the PVC pipe sign holder. Why was it you that ended up doing this? Why not? I mean, Judge Vadati herself could have filed these requests too. too, or a reporter or somebody. And I think this was maybe something where it was just very unlikely to work. And so all of the professionals maybe just thought this is probably not going to work, so we're not going to try. Whereas I was naive about that, and I didn't know how unlikely it was to work, so I just went ahead and did it and actually just got extremely lucky.
Okay, so
then the city attorney.
So let's dig into that for a second. So for me, from my perspective, it could be the kind of thing, hey, there was so much backlash, it's not worth pursuing this kind of thing. I was able to pull out some of Vedadi's cases that I said, well, that's an interesting judgment. I see what you're going up against here, but you are correct that there's no reason not to say, here are the cases we take issue with. What'd you find out?
So the city attorney's memo in their press release said, in one recent case, Judge Vedadi ruled that a defendant was in substantial compliance with the treatment and dismissed the case, even though it was clear the defendant never got on the transport van to ABHS, that's a treatment facility, to fulfill his residential treatment requirement as part of the dispositional continuance. Now, a couple of things. The defendant was a woman, not a man, when they said his residential treatment requirement. So attention to detail, not their strong suit in the first place. And the Judge Vedadi actually didn't dismiss the case. She ruled the defendant was not in compliance, and she actually issued a bench warrant for the defendant saying, no, you missed a court date. You have to appear. So it's ironic the city attorney was accusing her of being too soft on this specific defendant and claiming she dismissed the defendant's case, and she was actually saying, no, this person has to appear in court or they'll go to jail. And they hand-waved over a couple of other details, like when she said, it was clear that the defendant never got on the transport van, and then if you actually pull the recording from the court hearing, defendant's lawyer is explaining, well, the defendant was shot in the leg and they were in a wheelchair, and they actually tried to get on the van, but the staff was not allowed to touch them to help them to get on the van, and that was the reason they couldn't make it. Now, obviously, that's a mitigating circumstance that is relevant if you're putting out this press release slagging off on the judge, accusing them of mishandling the case.
So then let's do this, Bennett, for a second here, okay? For me, I look at Ann Davidson and I say, this is the best option I have from my political point of view. You're looking at this from a different perspective where you're not big on Ann Davidson. Is there another candidate you would want to see as Seattle City Attorney, and who would that be and why?
Well, I think Rory Sullivan is the most prominent progressive alternative who I think has the best chance of winning. I mean, but I was also looking at this whole thing from a very nonpartisan point of view. Like, it's not really that Ann Davidson was a Republican that was the problem. And actually, to the extent that she's now saying she's going to take a stand against Donald Trump, I'm like, woo! And you're, of course, boo, over in the other corner. But, so if she hadn't done all this other stuff, I would hear her saying, okay, here's a Republican with principles taking a stand against Trump. But she's also compromised herself with all this other stuff, putting out the press release with these false statements about the judge. And, she had on her website that she was endorsed by Dan Strauss at the Seattle City Council, and asked him about that. And he's like, no, that's not true. I never endorsed. And she pulled it off her webpage later.
Hang on a second here. Let's go with that one for a second, the endorsement thing for a second, okay? Because you and I both know, like Bruce Harrell said he was, what's his face? Sean Scott. Sean Scott said he was endorsed by Bruce Harrell. Then Bruce Harrell, as soon as he was getting flack for it, goes, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. That might be the kind of thing where Dan Strauss said yes and then said no. But I think your point is well taken. I'm going to tell you which part I agree with you on this. The issue is that Ann Davidson seems to be doing certain things that are ticking off her supporters like me, suing the Trump administration, et cetera, et cetera. That's opening the door for supporters of her opponents like you to say, well, it's not just that, it's also this, it's also that, which is causing people like me to be more shaky on it. And I think this actually shows when you try to play both sides, you end up getting squished like the bug, like Mr. Miyagi says. And I think right here she's giving ammo to her opposition on either side, where she doesn't need to be doing that. Would you say that's a succinct summary of the situation, Bennett?
Yeah, I mean, her political consultants are the professionals, but I mean, my question would be, if you're trying to appeal to the left, well, the progressives are not going to vote for the Republican when there's a legitimate progressive running in the race. So you're never going to poach supporters from Rory O'Sullivan that way. I mean, it could simply be a question of principle that she, in her heart of hearts, is sincerely horrified about some of the things that Trump is doing. I mean, that's perfectly legitimate. But I mean, if you really want to stop Trump, the thing to do is vote for Rory O'Sullivan. Not that that's going to convince any of your listeners, but certainly the progressives that she's trying to appeal to.
Well, actually, Bennett, that's the quote of the day, by the way. The progressives are never going to vote for a moderate or a Republican when there is a true progressive in the race. Bennett, I appreciate that you and I have gotten to a place where we can have these conversations now. I really, really mean that. Because it used to be I would see you at protests and such like that, and I said, who the hell is this guy, and what do I do with him? But I got to say, I'm very, very happy you and I have this kind of detente. I love that you call the show, and I love that you're participating in these transplant games, and I appreciate that you stay in touch with me. So, Bennett, thank you very, very much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Hey, you're welcome. And I'll always keep calling every time you're wrong about something. Davison, not Davidson, but
I would expect no different. We got a lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Somebody in the Trump administration has a real sense of humor. I wanted to do the story yesterday, but we didn't get to it because we had so many calls and texts. But today I made time, carved out the time for this story, and I'm so glad I did because I just noticed something very, very fun. UCLA has settled with students for over $6 million after the Department of Justice determined the school violated civil rights during the Gaza camp occupation. Now, until just now during the commercial break, I didn't see the actual number. It's $6.13 million. Why is that entertaining? So in Jewish tradition, there are 613 commandments. It's not 10. Throughout the entire Bible, there's 613 mitzvahs, positive mitzvahs that you do, things you're not supposed to do. And there's 613 of them. You're telling me the settlement with UCLA is 613? Oh, somebody's got Jewish lawyers. Telegraph that over to me right now. That's what that is. Let me tell you what happened. On Tuesday, the University of California, Los Angeles, agreed to pay over $6 million to settle a lawsuit brought by Jewish students and faculty members over the school's handling of anti-Israel protests, including allowing protesters to ban Jews from part of the campus known as the Jewish Exclusion Zone. The announcement of the settlement came after the U.S. Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division announced that UCLA violated federal civil rights by failing to address a hostile environment for Jewish and Israeli students on campus in breach of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The lawsuit was brought in 2024 by the Beckett Fund for Religious Liberty, which accused UCLA of aiding and abetting anti-Semitic culture, including segregating Jewish students and preventing them from accessing the heart of the campus. According to a formal notice of violation released by the Civil Rights Division, UCLA acted with deliberate indifference in its responses to reports of severe and pervasive harassment targeting Jewish and Israeli students following the October 7, 2023 Hamas attacks and the resulting escalating tensions on college campuses nationwide. So our investigation, according to Pam Bondi, into the University of California system has found concerning evidence of systemic anti-Semitism at UCLA that demands severe accountability from the institution. This disgusting breach of civil rights against students will not stand. DOJ will force UCLA to pay a heavy price for putting Jewish Americans at risk and continuing our ongoing investigation into other campuses in the UC system. You know why this is very important for you here in Washington? UCLA is a state-funded school. So this settlement was a private lawsuit. This was not from the Department of Justice. Of course, they immediately settled that lawsuit. They're about to be dealing with the Trump administration. We told you that after they were done with the Ivies, who are they going to be coming for? The state schools. So after this, you know who I would bet is up next? My guess is in the next few days, next few weeks, you're going to be hearing about the University of Washington. And I'll tell you something else. I got a public disclosure request back the other day. University of Washington stretches these things as long as they possibly can. I got one back the other day. And I don't normally get media files in these requests. It's usually documents. And I clicked on one of these media files, and the first thing I hear is John Carlson's voice. I'm like, what the hell is this? Why is John Carlson's voice in this folder? Would you like to know more? The reason is because John Carlson was interviewing Cliff Mass, the meteorologist who teaches classes at the University of Washington. And he was interviewing him about the hate on campus. The University of Washington was more concerned with John Carlson's interview on KVI with Cliff Mass than they were about what was going on in the Gaza encampment, and I've got the audio and I've got the emails to prove it. You know what else was in this public disclosure request? I don't know how to pronounce her name. Tweena Nobles. She's a Democrat in the Washington State Legislature. She was writing statements of support along with Yasmin Trudeau of the violent anti-Semitic Gaza encampment. And they weren't the only ones. Lots more Democrats were doing it too. I'll put out that information. I'll be posting all of it on social media next week. We'll be putting it out one after the other after Seafair. You know what else I found? And this is news to me. Governor Jay Inslee's office was checking in on a regular basis on the encampment. Checking in to see how it was going. And you know what? They were getting updates from the school. And yet they weren't doing a thing about it. Governor Jay Inslee never issued a statement. Turd Ferguson never issued a statement about what was going on at the University of Washington. The University of Washington was more concerned with what John Carlson and Cliff Mass were talking about than anything else, which is crazy to me. Also, I haven't gotten to the files yet. I'm not feeling the love. What, you guys weren't worried about what I was saying? I was way worse than what John was doing to you guys. But you know what? John is an alum of the University of Washington. He was concerned about what was going on there. Turd Ferguson, Jay Inslee, they're also alumni of the University of Washington. And they didn't say a damn thing. Bruce Harrell didn't say a damn thing. For all those weeks that thing existed, that Jews were being persecuted on campus, didn't say a word. I hope University of Washington has to pay as much as Harvard, because let's not forget how much funding from the federal government goes to them and goes to University of Washington Medical. They deserve to lose all of it. They were more concerned about John Carlson and Cliff Mass than they were about Antifa and pro-Hamas on their campus, terrorizing their students. They deserve to lose all their federal funding. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card and tickets to see Adam Sandler, plus so much more. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway, today for our good news headlines, we have the Seafair schedule, my friends. That's right. I love Seafair. It's like another holiday for me. I love this weekend. I love everything about it. And there's some interesting things this year. So it looks like tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. is when testing and qualifying begins for the hydros, and that's down at the pits near Genesee Park. That's down there. So I assume, it doesn't say the gates open at 8:30, but I assume the gates open at 8:30 if that's what time the testing and qualifying begins. I don't see anything to the contrary there. But I know what you guys really want. You guys want to know the schedule for the Blue Angels and all the flight stuff. So at 12:20 p.m., U.S. Coast Guard search and rescue demonstration. That's always fun. Then at 12:30, you have the PBY-5A Catalina with water takeoff. Oh, that's awesome. 12:50, you have Tories Ward microjet demonstration. Where's the biplane guy? I don't see the biplane guy. Oh, wait, hang on. We're getting there. 1:05 p.m. is the U.S. Marine Corps F-35B. 1:30 p.m., U.S. Air Force F-16 with Heritage Flight P-51 Mustang. I like when they do that. That's when they fly side by side. At 2 p.m., U.S. Army AH-64 Apache helicopter demo. Yes. Then at 2:10, U.S. Air Force C-17 Globemaster 3. At 2:20, KC-135 Stratotanker refuel demo with a C-17. At 3:20, Melissa Burns aerial acrobatics and hydros. And then at 3:35 is the U.S. Navy Blue Angels. So that means what they've done, that means Fat Albert flies first. That's their cargo plane, and then afterwards they fly. So what that means is they're sticking with the successful thing they did a couple of years ago where they moved the Blue Angels to the end because they realized everybody leaves after the Blue Angels. When we used to run the bounce houses for Seafair and such, I remember the Blue Angels would fly around 1:30, and then by the time they were done around 2:30, 3 o'clock, everybody would leave, and you still got hours left of hydroplane racing. And it's kind of embarrassing when everybody's leaving Seafair. So actually, this is a good logistical move. Hang on, I want to check the schedule for Saturday and Sunday. I want to see if we have a B2 coming. I don't see a B2. Though on Saturday, you have a lot more. You also have... right here, you've got a KC-135 Stratotanker refueling demo with a C-17. That sounds like a lot of fun. Anything special for Sunday? A Boeing 777-9 flyby. That's always fun. I'm looking for anything different each day. It looks like that's about... oh, here we go. 10:35 a.m., opening ceremonies with the King County helicopter flag presentation also on Sunday. It's going to be a great weekend. It's going to be an absolutely great weekend down at Seafair. And as I've been saying all day, as I've been saying all week, as I've been saying since last week, if you guys want to show these lunatics with the billboards and these lunatics with the cats that you want Seafair to stay, go down to Seafair. It's free on Fridays. Go down there. Make sure they have record attendance. Support Seafair. I love Seafair. It's my favorite weekend of the year. I'm going to try and actually go down there tomorrow morning with my daughter, see if I can wander around down there. It's so much fun. Plus, this year, our friends over at Dick's Drive-In have their classic car show. And I got to say, that thing was awesome the last time I went down there. That was really special and a really great addition to Seafair there along Lake Washington Boulevard. So, oh, and plus, I think the Dick's food truck is going to be out there as well. Lots of fun stuff down in the pits. If you've never done Seafair before, go down on Friday when it's free. You'll have a great time. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980. Features prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life. For 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots so future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit MadronaFinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we are giving away two tickets to see Adam Sandler at Climate Pledge Arena on October 29th. And don't forget, when Adam Sandler goes places, usually get some of his Saturday Night Live special guest, other comedian friends along with him. You can get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. That's Ticketmaster.com. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and 2 tickets to see Adam Sandler and friends at Climate Pledge Arena on October 29th. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Let's go do it for us today, my friends, but fear not. We'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.